It is the deepest, hardest part of me. But I also need to do it because if people can't see what it looks like on the other side of loss, they can't understand why the prevention of domestic violence is so important. And so my disclaimer is, I have practiced this no less than a dozen times. I have cried every single time. I will cry today. And I feel okay doing that in your presence because I know you will hold it with me. And we will hold it together, and I will get through it because I've also gotten through it every single time I've practiced it. So with that, we will begin. So who are we? Who is Nexion Solutions? Nexion Solutions is a technology company. We sit at essentially the intersection of public safety and victim services. So what we do is we give organizations like Sojourner the ability to protect people who are at high risk for violence. So conceptually, if you think about kind of what OnStar does for cars, that is what we do for people who are at high risk for violence. A little bit about me, but not because this is not my story. When people ask me why I do this or how I came to be standing here in front of you today, the answer I've circled into is that it is for me part advocacy, it is for me part quest for justice, and it is for me part healing. So let's talk about those. On the advocacy side of things, I'm going to tell you today a little bit about domestic violence and why it's something that impacts us all and why we should collectively support the prevention of it. On the quest for justice side of things, the catalyst for this company is my sister's death and her story. But there are too many people like her in the world. And my goal is to ensure that those families do not have to endure the loss that we did. Lastly, this is part healing for me. Every single time I put one of our devices on a woman who is at high risk for violence or lethality, I put down a little bit of the weight that I picked up when my sister died. My PSA for the day is that October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is why I am wearing this purple, flowy, cloud-like shirt that you see up here. I chose this picture specifically. This was an event that Sojourner had last year called Light the Hone Bridge Purple in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. My kids and soon-to-be kid attended with me. And I included this picture because I wanted to talk about the ramifications of loss. When we think about the loss of one person, we tend to think about community members that they impacted, coworkers, their friends. We don't think about the ripple effect that it has out into other generations of time. The loss of my sister rippled out into my parents' generation, to all their friends, all of their family, all of their coworkers, and down into my children's generation. My daughter was 3 months old when we lost my sister. She has not ever met her. She knows her, and she has grown up under the awning of my grief. We celebrate Halloween in my house. I'm a big fan of Halloween. Seth knows this, actually. He's attended a few Halloween parties at my house. 2 days later, we celebrate Dia de los Muertos in my house because my sister and I went to Mexico all the time together. We both loved it. And it is the day that we honor those who have passed on. So in my house, we make margie mashed potatoes, and we eat them. Loss ripples out generationally. When I am gone, my kids will carry the story of my sister on. And if I am so blessed to be a grandma, my grandchildren will carry those stories on. So in this work, a lot of times people ask me, who is impacted by domestic violence? What is the face of domestic violence? And what I will tell you is what I tell them, which is if you've met one domestic violence survivor, you've met one domestic violence survivor. Domestic violence is an equal opportunist. It does not distinguish based on race, creed, socioeconomic status, marital status, gender, sexual orientation, or geography. Some statistics for you. Domestic violence impacts 10 million people in this country every year. That boils down to 20 people every minute of time. By the time we are done here today with our approximately 60-minute long presentation, by the time I take the last question from y'all, 1,200 people will have been abused. I chose the picture on the right up here. It's actually an educational awareness campaign about how technology enables and exacerbates inequality. But it is also a really good emblematic picture of how technology enables and exacerbates domestic violence. Virtually all, 95% of cases that sit right now in front of an advocate involve some form of technology-enabled abuse. 71% of abusers monitor their survivors' phones. Technology abuse has increased 780% since the pandemic. From air tags that are great for finding our keys, to location tracking apps that are on phones, abusers can keep tabs on women without them knowing it. Social media allows abusers to track where their people are through their friends and their family. Online accounts, which are great for convenience, banking accounts, food accounts, mortgage accounts, renters accounts. Abusers can hack into their survivors' accounts and block them from access to funds, from paying their mortgage on time, from paying their rent on time. Technology has too often, and is too often today, wielded as a weapon against survivors of domestic violence. That's a notion we want to flip on its head. In this space, in this work, my sister's story is common. She met a man who abused his power over her from the very beginning. And in retrospect, there's a lot of red flags that I saw, but didn't really know quite how to handle. Things like he always wanted to know where she was. He would incessantly call if she wasn't where she said she was going to be. She was constantly managing to his mood. And at some point, he began physically hurting her. We lost her on March 28th of 2007. When you lose someone who is living in a space of violence, it has the effect of upending your life and your definition of what safety is and security is in a way that is like having the rug pulled out from underneath you, only to discover there is no floor underneath the rug. There is an abyss that you fall and fall and fall into, wondering if you're going to hit the ground. And when you do, if you're me, you pull your kids in. You pull your family and your friends, and you wall that thing in. I am going to keep us safe in here. But the thing is that love and life happen out in the world. My kids needed to go to school. And so then if you're me, you look at the world and you say, okay, if I can make the world safer for my daughter-in-law to be, my son, for my friends and my family, for women who are like my sister, then maybe that's my place to stand. And if you have a technology background like I do, you take that technology and you allow it to guide you into the future. Okay, you guys, we made it through the rough part. And I've only choked up a few times. Okay, so I said at the beginning that we are an organization that allows organizations like Sojourner to protect people who are at high risk for violence. And that primarily shakes out into kind of 3 different categories that you see behind me here. In the workplace refers to people that we want to help support and protect who maybe go into communities alone or go into a person's house in order to take care of them and provide a service. So if you think of postal carriers who are frequently actually attacked when they're on the job, or nurses and home health aides who go into patients' homes to take care of them. Those people frequently experience violence on the job. In fact, 65% of home health care workers tell us that they experience violence on the job every single year. That's a crazy statistic. In the home refers to what we've been talking about, domestic violence, and that is an umbrella that covers everything from child abuse to human trafficking to sexual assault to intimate partner violence. In the community refers to something that unless you work in law enforcement or you work at the district attorney's office, you probably haven't heard a lot about, and that is witness intimidation. When we have big crime that happens, gun crime, drug crime, gang crime, homicides, very frequently the witnesses who are brave enough to come forward and testify experience alarming degrees of very violent witness intimidation to ensure their silence. So that phrase, snitches wear stitches, if you've heard of it, it's a real thing. And we do not have a good way to protect those people. So what do? We, as an organization, essentially provide 2 things. We provide a device that an end user or a person who is at high risk for violence can wear. And we also keep kind of a large, I call it a big database of information, but essentially it's our back end. And what that back end does is it supports law enforcement in the field, it supports the judiciary as they are trying to do their jobs. So how all of that works together is we provide our devices to an organization like Sojourner. We sell them to Sojourner. Sojourner then provides devices free of charge to people that they identify as being at high risk for violence or lethality. If that person gets into trouble, they press the button and they activate their device. That device then calls out. It is essentially, I'm wearing one today, it is essentially a cell phone that is strapped to your wrist. It does not tether to your smartphone. It operates all on its own. It calls out to our emergency operators and they listen. They are listening for violence, they're listening for fighting, and at that point then they reach out to dispatch so that dispatch can send police officers to help. And they can give dispatch a whole bunch of information that they don't normally get from a caller who is asking for help. They can provide them with who the person is, who the protectee is, if they have children that they need to protect. There's a dog in the house, because a dog can sometimes complicate things as far as law enforcement response goes. And they're also listening, and so they're gathering real-time information. They can provide exactly where the person is based on the GPS location of the device so that that operator can say, hey, this is where she is, but I can see that she's moving, and I'm going to keep updating you with her location. And they can say what they can hear I can hear that there are 4 men involved. I can hear that he is talking about shooting her. I know he has a gun. And now police know, hey, there's 4 guys involved. Or, oh, there's a gun involved. And so they're maybe showing up with backup. Underneath all of that, we are collecting data. We're collecting audio that can be used. We are collecting GPS location information. We're collecting vital statistics. And all of that can then become additional evidentiary support to be used in a future court case. In early 2023, we implemented this technology solution for the very first time ever anywhere in the city of Milwaukee. Our 2 pilot partners were the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office and Sojourner Family Peace Center. It was a small cohort of people. It was about 60 people. And I wish Kent Lovern was here today because for those of you who know Kent Lovern, he is our Chief Deputy District Attorney in Milwaukee, soon to be DA. And he was the first person that I went to with this solution. And he has been an advocate and a champion for it from the very beginning. We are so lucky in this city to have him as the visionary leader he is, because he is constantly seeking out innovative ways to support and protect people who need it. He introduced me to Carmen Petrie, the CEO of Sojourner Family Peace Center, and together we implemented this solution across 59 women and 1 man. And we implemented research around it because we wanted to know if it worked. So we looked at kind of 4 main things. We looked at, are we reducing rates of injury and death among our participants? And it's hard to prove that. It's hard to prove a negative. So we paired that with, are we enhancing your feelings of safety? As human beings, we're really good determiners of our own safety. And then we looked at police officers. Are we increasing their safety or their feelings of safety on the job? And we looked at our assistant DAs. Do they have additional evidence that they can use to charge cases, to prosecute? Our results were good. Among our device users, among our 60 device users, we had 2 abductions of women and 1 gang ambush of a high-risk witness, all of which we were able to bring to safe conclusion. 100% of them experienced a reduction in post-traumatic stress symptoms. Among police, just among those 60 people across a 12-month period of time, we facilitated 253 calls for help. And we were able to reduce police response times by a factor of 7x. And that wasn't the technology. That was Milwaukee Dispatch saying, the calls that come in from these devices are life and death calls, and we are giving them a priority 1 response. And because of that, this next statistic happened, which is one of the ones I'm most proud of, which is that 92% of our participants who engaged with and used their device reported a positive change in their perception of law enforcement. So when we think about how do we restore community trust, it starts with things that bring the people who most need protection together with the people who can provide it in a much more effective way. Lastly, on the justice system side of things, we were able to aid in 15 arrests for restraining order violations, and we did generate audio that was used in court. I am going to show you a video next, a very quick video, and Kent, who is not here with us in person, does in fact have a cameo during this. The backstory to this video is that after the first abduction happened, the Milwaukee Chief of Police Office called Carmen over at Sojourner. And he said, you know, we don't really get a lot of good press. So this was cool, this was good, this was a really good day. Can we have a press conference and share this information? And Carmen said, I don't know, I mean, it sort of sounds like a good idea, but let me call. So she called me, And we talked about it for a while, and we collectively decided that wasn't a good idea because we didn't want to compromise. We didn't want to do a thing where we were going to be showing the device and talking about how many were out there because we didn't want to compromise the safety of the people who were wearing it. So instead, we created a video that pulled together all the people who participated in that abduction process at the very beginning and at the very end in the courtroom's place of things. And we had them talk about the impact of it. And so what you'll hear them talk about is GPS technology, which is us, and our technology partner, because we kept it very much on the down low what it is. And you will notice that in here, we don't show what the device is or anything like that. So without further ado, I will play for you. Hopefully this works.
This particular technology provides evidence of what happened in a way that we've never received before. You know, honestly, this particular technology provides evidence of what happened in a way that we've never received before. Tell a jury honestly how concerned.
Sorry, this actually happened when I was practicing it too. I was hoping that it wouldn't do that. Hang on, okay. Technology, I tell you. All right, let's try one more time.
This particular technology provides evidence of what happened in a way that we've never received before. You know, honestly, this particular technology provides evidence 911 calls in a way that we've never received before. Tell a jury how.
Okay, I am going to ditch out of my presentation and jump into fabulous World Wide Web. That was where Amelia and I went for dinner last night. If anyone's feeling really hungry, it was great. Let's see. Let's go into my website. Anybody know a song we can sing while Liz is pulling this up?
We're just a nod. You can fix it this way, so we're watching you.
All right, here we go. Everybody.
This particular technology provides evidence of what happened in a way that we've never received before. You know, honestly, we've in the past used 911 calls to tell a jury how concerned a person was when they made that phone call and how emotionally charged they were and how volatile the situation may have been. But in very few of those calls do you catch anything in the background about what's happening. This technology allows for essentially evidence to be collected of what is happening at the time that call is made that I think is particularly compelling in the courtroom process.
911, what is your emergency? I have a GPS panic alarm for a survivor of violence. She was crying and screaming and asking for help.
In one regard, it was a normal day in the life of an advocate and an officer, right? This is what we do every single day, as we are in relationship with people who are facing very lethal circumstances.
That day we were supposed to meet with a victim of domestic violence. And as the morning went on, I learned from my partner that there was actually a situation going on with the victim and her abuser.
On that day, we were notified by a technology partner that a high-risk domestic violence survivor had activated her device. So we immediately dispatched squads to her location.
We were scrambling, trying to pinpoint exactly where she may be or where they may be going in order to get to her faster because of the circumstances. We were all very worried about her, to be quite honest.
pretty much monitoring everything where she was at. The police response, I was very nervous because I knew what she went through and I was very aware of her case.
It was obvious that she was in a vehicle and she was moving. And then when it stopped, we were able to find out her location, and even to the point that we found out that she was actually in a basement. So the officers were able to get into that location and locate her and remove her from that situation.
Took a little bit, but through radio communication, we were able to hear that another district was there and she was safe and the suspect was taken into custody.
I would say for everyone in my office, it was pretty intense because we just kept thinking, you know, what were the suspect's intentions with her? You know, it's never a good thing that she was obviously taken by him, and we just wanted to get her to safety as quickly as possible.
What's different and unique about this circumstance is we knew we had this technology. And for the first time, you know, we could get creative about how we could find her.
I almost felt like the time frame between what was going on and the information we were receiving was quicker and it was faster. I felt like police were able to respond quicker than usual. It was nice to know locations a lot faster, which allowed officers to get there quicker. So it definitely felt different, but in a good way. I felt like, you know, this is really helping us today. This is something totally new to us, and is beneficial for us.
The value of it is I need partners to be able to help me save a person's life. And I think that is the basis of good work. And then the collaboration between the advocate and the officer and communications and your technology was a game changer, life-saving for this young woman.
Okay. So at about this point, when I'm presenting this to agencies like Sojourner, federal agencies, law enforcement, they're like, this is great. How much does it cost? And how are other people funding it? So very simplistically, it is $325 for the device. So we take an off-the-shelf smartwatch and we customize it. We turn it from a smartwatch that measures your steps into a device that will save your life if you are at high risk for violence. And then, much like your cell phone or I've fallen and can't get up device, it includes that connectivity charges as well as emergency monitoring available for you 24/7 because that's when our people need us. And so those things combined are $35 per month per device itself. So for our not-for-profit customers like Sojourner, the way that they fund that is we've been writing grants. There's actually a very large federal research grant that is out right now with Sojourner. Everybody keep their fingers crossed that they get that. That would be really powerful and amazing. They can go to big corporate donors. We've had customers go to corporate donors and say, hey, would you fund this program for us to try this in this, you know, in our community, in our area? Or you can do a general fundraise, which is what we are in the process of doing with Sojourner right now. So there are flyers. It was suggested to me perhaps by a little birdie that I might share with you all how to invest in one of these devices for a woman. The front of this is a flyer we created in conjunction with Sojourner. The front of it tells a little bit more about what we do, and you'll see Carmen's beautiful face there. And then there is a letter from me on the back inviting you to join us in making the world safer. On the bottom of it is instructions in case you would like to make a donation. Now, before I go into that, I want to talk about Sojourner a little bit. Sojourner Family Peace Center, kudos to you guys for partnering with them. They are one of the most amazing organizations I have ever had the privilege to work with in all of my years of corporate life and now this work. They are visionaries and leaders in this space. Carmen is routinely pinged as an expert on domestic violence to talk everywhere from locally on the news to national stages. They offer so many life-saving programs, from emergency shelter to assistance with legal resources and navigating and negotiating through the legal system, to food and clothing and relocation assistance. They offer so many life-saving services. Any investment that you make in Sojourner will save lives. If you want to make a donation to Sojourner, you can navigate to their website. Oh, shoot, sorry. You can navigate to their website, and you would just hit the donate button that's on the top right-hand side of their screen. You can donate any amount, obviously. The amount for one woman, for one device, for a whole year is $745. So if you wanted to do that, you could, and you could put that amount in there. Obviously, any amount is welcome for them. Then if you did that, this part is important, you would choose other as a designation, and then you would enter Night Watch program. I'm going to close with the parable of the starfish, which I heard many, many years ago when I attended a domestic violence prevention gala, and I got to hear the author Janine Lattis keynote. And she wrote the book called If I Am Dead or Missing, which chronicled her own story of losing her sister to domestic violence. You guys have probably heard some iteration of this story. Most people have. My favorite version goes like this. There's a big storm, and all of these starfish are washed up on the shore. And when the waters recede, thousands of starfish are left dying in the sun. And a little girl is running from starfish to starfish and flinging them back into the ocean as quickly as she possibly can. And this man behind her is looking at all of the thousands of starfish, and he's like, it's pointless, it's hopeless. You can't save them all. And as she's flinging a starfish in, she looks at him and she says, but I saved that one. It's really easy when we're thinking about these numbers that I was talking about earlier and the vastness and bigness of this problem to get overwhelmed, to feel despair even. So I would implore you to remember the little girl and save one. Just one. Thank you. And I will happily take any questions that you have now. Yes?
Wait, let's do the microphone.
Is this thing on?
Microphones help the people at home. Yes. About a year ago, I saw something on Facebook, but if a woman is being abducted, there's a hand symbol she can use to tell people she's in trouble. She's walking down the street and the guy's got her by the arm. She can put her other arm behind the back and make the hand symbol. And I've forgotten what that is. Do you know what it is?
I do not know what that is, but I will be looking that up after this presentation. Okay. The beautiful thing about that is it elevates awareness for the issue, and it involves and engages community members in helping another person, right? The downside of it is it's hard to get out into the world, how that works, and then what happens after that, So if you've, so for the first abduction, the one that Kent was talking, started that video, she was pushed into a car. Police saw it. They were there already on scene. And he took off into morning traffic and they lost him. And so then at 6:40 something in the morning, they called me and asked where she was. And so I facilitated this police chase through Milwaukee by giving them the GPS coordinates of where she was, which is why underneath this watch band I have a tattoo with GPS coordinates on it, which are the GPS coordinates of the building that we pulled her safely from that morning.
Just a quick other question. Is there a correlation between, I don't know if you've tracked this long enough, but kids who are into bullying other children, do they grow up to be perpetrators of domestic violence?
I know.
It looks a lot like a health monitoring tool, and that is what we tell our survivors to tell people who are not safe in their life. And so they'll say, oh, this is a tool that my healthcare provider gave to me to track my heart rate. I will tell you, we have a survivor. Her situation is catastrophic. She has 3 active abusers in her life. She has called for help no less than 24 times in the last year. Her partner, who is actually now in jail, he has been hauled away from her house on several occasions. None of them have ever figured out any of those times what she's doing. They're just like, why are the police showing up so fast? So it is discreet, and that was one of our main objectives when we created it. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Like behind your back. That feels like a yoga move to me. Maybe a very powerful one. Any other questions? Yes? They currently have in the field just shy of 70 devices. Yes. Are you ready? If Carmen were here standing beside me, she would give these numbers. And I've presented with her a lot, so I know. Every year they touch about 10,000 unique people. Of those 10,000, somewhere between 56 and 75% are at high risk for lethality, for dying. So if she were here, she would say, my goal is to eventually get this on, those really, really high risk people
in the thousands of numbers per year, which is a crazy number to wrap your head around. No. We have the ability actually we have really fantastic partners in place and we built the system in order to be able to scale. So we have customers in Pittsburgh, we have customers in teeny tiny little Guyman, Oklahoma. And by the way, I thought I knew what rural was as a concept, being from Wisconsin. Yeah, no, not so much. Go to rural Oklahoma. And New Jersey and Ohio. So we're growing. We're trying to grow. My mission is actually to put myself out of business. Yes. Yep. Yes, we have an emergency operator partner, and they have 3 unique facilities, but those operators are always on and always answering our call. Nope. And yeah, and they are we have specific training that is done around our devices because we're a very unique solution. So normally an emergency operator would answer a call and say, hello, this is so-and-so, do you need help or emergency assistance? And in our instances, they actually have to be quiet because we don't want to give away, we want to keep the device discreet. So they just listen. And then if they don't hear anything for a while, it's usually a false alarm, like someone hit their button accidentally, and then they'll verbally engage. But they'll say something like, this is Nexion Solutions, and that's it. And then the person usually goes, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then we also have them choose a safe word. So that safe word can be used to, if they are in the presence of somebody who's figured out what the device is for, they can use that safe word to tell the operator that they're not safe. So hey, much like an ADT security system, right? So hey, this is Liz, my safe word is orange. My safe word is really apple. And then the operator would say, okay, thank you, Liz, take care and have a good day. And then they're calling police to come to me. Any other questions? Yes?
What is your single most significant limiting factor? Because I think we're all sitting here thinking, well, everybody should have these all over. Every state or country.
Yes.
What's the biggest limitation?
I mean, the biggest limitation, there are two major, I wouldn't even call them limitations. They're really just things they're challenges that we need to solve, right? So because this is a very new technology solution being used in this space, so the concept of emergency response at an individual level is old, right? The I've fallen and can't get up devices that we all know of and have heard of, they've been around for 40 years. The technology is tried and true. It's never been applied to this market before. Because of that, helping our partners like Sojourner, like members of law enforcement, to identify and raise funds is a critical piece at this point in time. Once I think we reach kind of a critical threshold and we've been around for several years and it's a known entity in terms of this work, then I think we'll be in a different space. But right now we are lending our partners a lot of help in terms of how can we identify paths to funding. I also, just before we close, I'd like to give a shout out because my team members are all watching on live stream, so thank you guys for hanging out at home with me on a Sunday morning. Are there any other questions before I give it to Seth to close?
Lynn actually was actually requested that I close with a prayer, which I think is a really profound gesture that we are not in this alone, that the church, especially a church founded on the message of Jesus, should be so deeply involved in caring for those who are most vulnerable, and it doesn't get much more most vulnerable than women who are in danger of being hurt, danger of being killed. And so we're just so grateful that you're here, back home, and grateful for your creativity and perseverance. Like, startups are rough, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. Yeah, I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal to start anything new. So we give thanks for you. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious God, we remember before you and we pray for the rest of the souls of all those women who have been taken too quickly from us because of violence, because of domestic abuse. We lift up before you and give thanks for the life of Marguerite especially, and for all those women who now rest in your light and peace. We pray, O Lord, to be agents, channels of your peace and love and justice in this world. We give thanks for those who are using their imagination, who are persevering to bring new solutions into women's lives. Give us the perseverance and give us the hope that what is today does not have to be tomorrow, that the darkness that is in these women's lives does have light to come in, and make us agents of that light, both now and in the days to come. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. And before you go, I do want to say that the outreach committee here, as a small way to say thank you to one of our own, we're funding one watch for one woman for 1 year as a sign of our love for you and of our great appreciation for this thing that you're building in the world. So, yeah, thanks to Christ Church. Yeah.